Back in the day, conservatism was a very different animal. Though it took a backseat to liberalism during the New Deal, it was still alive and well. In the 1970s, the brand was redesigned with the Southern strategy in the image of Confederate culture, and it's been downhill ever since. The conservative values of thrift, hard work, common sense, and patriotism were replaced with clan hatred, dishonesty, and mass delusion. It was a gross distortion of the original. It was engineered by the financial elite and is funded these days with buckets of corporate cash. Of course, it adopted the media's rhetorical methods, and like all partisan scams, it tells only half the story. But its favorite elements, in accord with backwoods culture, are irrational beliefs, seething hatred, and the bald-faced lie. All of this is super effective, especially the lying. As noted, fragmented stories are useless to the public. Lunatic ideas are worse, anger and hatred warp logic, and there's an old saying about lies that they go round the world while the truth is still putting its boots on. That's because liars make it up as they go, and honest people need time to research things. This is a huge advantage for conservatives. Of course, both sides lie through their teeth on a regular basis, but with money on tap, Republicans can warp the truth at industrial speed. But let's start with a low-key example from across the pond. Douglas Murray is a fixture in conservative media. He's regularly published in hardcover. He's featured on Sky News, GB News, Piers Morgan, The Spectator, you name it. It's important to point out that corporate spokesmen aren't hired for fun. They're required to follow the party line, and Murray sticks to the script like a pound of glue. He works three topics: immigration, Hamas, and wokeism. All are important, but like all media fixtures, his version is a bit one-sided. Always the focus is on the injustice of immigration, brutality of Hamas, and illogic of wokeism. The financial interests behind all of it don't appear. For clarity, they are the businesses that profit from migrant labor, Middle Eastern oil money, and global finance that infiltrated our institutions in the 1980s. But that info would actually be useful to the public, and we can't have that. Leaving out key facts is standard procedure for partisans on all sides, but it's a lot less painful than the tactics coming up. In a Town Hall Review headline, veterans are backlogged at the VA as resources are funneled to illegal immigrants. This is probably a lie. VA resources don't even go to civilians, so it's hard to imagine them used for immigrants. Another headline claims that the border is a crisis of Biden's making, and this one is bald-faced. As noted, open borders has been mainstream policy in both parties for 50 years. It was designed by business interest, is endorsed by dingbats on the left, and used these days as a wedge issue by the Republican machine. The numbers started rising under Trump, and when the scheme was discredited, to stall for time, he promised a wall. Of course, he didn't deliver, and the Republicans found excuses to vote down the new law. It's a bait-and-switch operation on the order of supply-side policy. If the day ever comes when conservatives see through the scam, Arnold will dance the Macarena in a potato sack at the MGM Grand. Another article rattles off a list of claims. Supposedly, under Trump, we had low inflation, a strong economy, rising working class wages, secure borders, and every other blessing known to man. Under Biden, everything's gone to hell in a handbasket. Needless to say, there's a bit more to the story. For a complimentary view, please check the Fareed link in the description. Even this is small potatoes. The Matt Walsh Show features rapid-fire smears for every liberal this side of Aspen. 3 minutes in, we get the big lie. Of course, it's only one in the stockpile. Others include COVID as a liberal plot, microchipped vaccines, the stolen election, tax cuts for working people that go straight to the top, tax cuts and increased spending to balance the budget, and commie infiltration of the Parks Department. These work for a few reasons. They stoke tribalist hatred. Because they're too stupid for words, they're hard to refute. Because they're produced at warp speed and repeated like a broken record, they overwhelm the public. As noted, repetition is one of the top methods of crowd control. Walsh, that fibber, repeats the great replacement theory. Supposedly, Democrats support immigration in order to win elections. This sounds logical. The truth is both more complex and more interesting. Liberals want immigration out of the kindness of their hearts. They're also hopelessly naive. They actually believe we can provide a consumer lifestyle to the baby factories in the third world, and they could care less about what the operation does to the working class. They're dupes of the real players. As noted, those are the financial interests that profit from migrant labor, and that conservatives love so much. It's not about replacement, it's about cheap labor. But the audience can't be allowed to know that. If they did, they might think twice about voting for the party of global finance. Better to pretend it's a liberal plot. Next up is the smug mug of Victor Davis Hanson. He's an interesting case, a professor specializing in biased research and lunatic claims. For example, Americans must choose between civilization and its destroyers. That's his pet name for Democrats. Note the contempt, which is typical of conservative attack dogs. It's also a bald-faced lie, which he supports with name-calling too vicious and generalizations too vague to repeat. The claim is that conservatives are angels of light and liberals demons from hell. Of course, the Democratic Party is corrupt. The Republican Party is just as bad, if not worse. But contradictory facts don't appear in Hanson's screed. Also, the left wishes to alter U.S. demography. Maybe they do, but not for the reason Hanson thinks, and not nearly as much as his financial backers want cheap labor. And the idea was to use oil to transition to clean energy. Actually, the Republican idea was and is to suck up every bit of cash from the oil industry, regardless of what that does to the planet. Also, government spending caused inflation, not monopoly control of industry and bloated corporate profits. That brings us to the final and creepiest example, Donald Trump's insults, name-calling, and insolence. For many, a candidate talking trash about everyone and their sister was a disgrace to the presidency, but it's perfectly in tune with the new brand of conservatism. But I can't go on. Insults upset my delicate nature, obvious lies should get the leastest airtime possible, and it's not good to poison your consciousness with that much contempt. Thus we have the conservative internet, a mix of bald-faced lies, faux scholarship, demented beliefs, insults and accusations, and cold venom. It's matched by the liberal net, crackpot theories, self-righteousness, half-baked narratives, and academic pretensions. Given the corruption and stupidity on both sides, there's only one thing to do. It's to look at the parties objectively, and that'll happen in the next video.